World Wonders is a competitive tile-laying game with phenomenal components and with a solitaire option. And I played the game solitaire and also multiplayer. I'm gonna tell you about both. They do play quite differently. I was speaking about the amazing components. Look at those, those painted wooden miniatures representing different kinds of monuments that you will be able to build during the game. 3 will be available at any given time, 2 if you're playing solitaire, and the ones that are available are represented by a deck of cards. You draw a card and for everybody to see, and you place the corresponding miniature on it. And then, well, let me tell a little bit more about the game so that then you know how you can place them. How you can get to acquire those amazing monuments. Each player will have a board such as this one. The board is double-sided, a river on one side and the lake on the other. As long as everybody has the same side face up, you're good to go. And then we have a personal track to keep record of several things. These also are double-sided. You have an A and a B side, and again, everybody needs to have the same thing. Each round you will get 7 coins that you can spend, and when you're out of coins, well, you're out of the round, and then players will continue playing until everybody's out of coins. You can also choose to pass, but if you have money, usually you want to spend it. And you can also get extra money by getting a loan. You take one of these tiles, then you collect 2 coins, but then you flip it face up or down. It depends which side is up or down. You turn it to this side as a reminder that before the end of the game you need to repay the loan by spending 3 coins, or you're gonna lose 2 victory points at the end of the game. So the main mechanic is spend money to take actions, and when it is your turn, you take an action and then you spend the corresponding amount of money. Some actions will cause your agriculture, your crafts, and or your technology to increase. When one of these tokens covers one of these white icons, then you increase your population accordingly. And if someone's population reaches the end of the population track, that triggers the end of the game at the end of that round. Otherwise, the end of the game is triggered, takes place at the end of round 10. So there are several actions, as we said, that you can take by spending coins. And there is a pretty good player aid here that tells you what it is that you can do. For 1 coin, you can acquire a road, or a long road, or a set of 2 short roads, and in a really tiny road that is only 1 square. First, I'll show you what you can buy, and then I'll tell you how you can place things on the board. Also, this game has a lot about opportunity cost. So, for example, with 2 players, that's what you got. If somebody buys that, well, you cannot get a long road for the current round. The supply of things that can be acquired is replenished only at the end of the round. Super important. For 2 coins, you can buy a tower. We'll see what that does. For 1 coin, you can buy a little pedestal that will ensure that you will go first next round. And say, about the pedestal, I'm going to put my player's marker on top as a reminder. Somebody may also buy the pedestal for going second. And again, since opportunity is very important, going first in a round can be quite crucial, especially when it comes to buying buildings. Everybody wants to buy those. Again, those are the types of buildings that are available. There are more for 4 and 5 players, but that's the basic supply. So you stack them, you shuffle these stacks separately, and then you take a building of each shape and size out available for that round. And again, if somebody buys this, well, too bad that no one else can buy it. Also, there are different kinds you can see. This is farm, for example, M is for market. And again, if I really need a market for something and somebody buys it, that's bad. Maybe I should have bought the ability of going first that round. The cost of the buildings is indicated on the corresponding stack. So these kind of buildings, for example, are 4, as you can see. And just to show you that the shape is the same, but the type and the rewards associated with them are different. And yes, when you build a building, you also move those tracks that I showed you earlier, the corresponding ones, by the number of spaces. If I build this market, I collect 1 agriculture, or advance 1 step in agriculture and 2 steps in crafts. Temples there, the advance different things. So that's how you buy stuff, but then also the monuments. Remember, players will want to buy the monuments at the end of a round because the cost for acquiring a monument is whatever it is that you have left. So you could buy a monument as your first action in a turn. If you're really afraid somebody's going to take it, it costs you 7 coins. Or you wait until you spent almost all of your money and then you have 1 coin left, and building a monument only costs 1 coin. So whatever amount of money you have left, and also you need to respect placement rules, and each building has different ones. For example, the pagoda needs to be next to a natural resource and to a B-type building, also needs to be on 2 squares of land. The Easter Gate next to a road and a B-type building, the aqueduct next to a body of water and a road and a farm, and the 2 edges must be on dry land, but the 3 intervening squares can be water or land, it doesn't matter. So that's the general idea, and so you acquire stuff that goes on your board. And the player aid that I showed you earlier, which does such a good job of telling you the cost of things, also does an excellent job of telling you where you place stuff. Roads. Roads can be adjacent to the sidewalk, which is the lower edge of your personal board, like so. Roads can also be adjacent to other roads, because that just makes sense. That it really does. And or roads can start from a tower. And basically there will be times when maybe your road is completely surrounded by buildings on one side, and the tower can be adjacent to anything that you already have on the board. And so, for example, I could place a tower, well, you're not going to see it, but behind there, so I could start a road from there. One of the main reasons, I find one of the main functions for towers really is to allow you to start a road in an area that is surrounded by buildings. So again, roads next to roads, sidewalk, towers, towers next to anything, buildings next to roads, like so, or buildings of the same kind, like that. And so that would be an example. For example, if I want to place a tower there, then I would be able to start a road from back there, like so. You see those natural resources printed on the map? I can build on top of them, but it's better if I don't, because there will be victory points if they're still visible at the end of the game. The roads also double as bridges, in which case a bridge, well, the 2 edges need to be on dry land, but so there would be a legal placement. That would not be, but the 2 edges need to be on dry land, but the rest could be on water. Oh, look at that, look at that. That would be a legal placement, like so. And then maybe that's when I build that stuff there. All this, as far as I can tell, looks legal. I don't know if it makes sense strategically, but it looks legal. And then later, I can add stuff. I can add monuments, depending. Again, I'm not gonna care about legal placement, but I just want you to get a sense that the board looks really amazing once you start building all of these things around. And that's kind of how it may look after a couple of turns. So we continue until the end of round 10, or until somebody has reached the end of their population track, and then we score victory points. Each player has a reminder here of what scores points at the end of the game. It's tiny, but you can see. Rings printed in the last spaces of the population track, each is a victory point. Your least developed resource, for example, if at the end of the game, this is my situation, I score 2 points for technology because that's my least developed resource. The Points on the monuments. When you build the monuments, you collect the corresponding cards. There may be other advantages, but again, rings equal victory points. The natural resource is still visible. Each is a victory point. And then districts. That means buildings on your board that are completely surrounded by something. And so, for example, right now, those are both districts and worth a victory point because, as you can see, they're surrounded by monuments, natural resources, roads, water, but basically they're not touching undeveloped terrain. Each building completely surrounded by stuff is a victory point. And the player with the highest score wins the game, of course. This game is phenomenal, just phenomenal. I love it. I love how it looks. The components are amazing. I love the components as more than the sum of the parts, because when you place them on the board and you're forming your play area, you just see the patterns grow, and just the beauty, the aggregate beauty of the components is very attractive to me. And as for gameplay, the rules are very simple, but gameplay is compelling and fun, and it's all about the opportunity cost, really, because of course you're looking at the material cost of a road or a tower, but ultimately there is this scarcity that has been built into the system, which makes those decisions a lot more interesting. It's not just the economy, it's also the economy and such few resources that my opponents may get before I get to buy them, and I really desperately need a temple, so I really want to, and there are no temples right now, so I want to make sure I'm gonna go first next turn, so there's a good chance to do that. I like that building, but I also like a road. I'm trying to read my opponents and see which ones they are more or less likely to get, so there are more chances that I can buy next turn whatever I'm not buying right now. The monuments, of course, the later you get them, the cheaper they are, but less likely you are to get them. And that's actually when it comes to this, is when the solo option, the solo version, plays quite differently from the multiplayer. Now, if you're playing solo, you set up 2-player game, and then you set up 2 monuments out there available at any given time instead of 3. And what you're gonna do is after the automaton goes first and simply takes stuff. You draw a card from this deck of cards, and they take the stuff on top if available, otherwise they go down. And so, for example, they will be taking a set of small roads if available, otherwise they take these two, and so on and so forth. And you're like, okay, that's fine. The trick is that these guys, or this guy, also may take monuments. Early on in the turn is not as likely, because if we draw this card for the bot, well, the bot takes the square. And there's a chance maybe I bought the square or the bot bought it first, and then they can take this one. Later in the turn, if none of these are available, the bot takes one of the monuments. There are only 2, and that's why the arrow points to the right or to the left. And it has happened to me that I was building to a monument, waiting as much as possible, and the bot bought it. That was annoying, but fun. Basically, the solo game has a push or luck element that you don't have in the multiplayer, which is where you have more control and you have more of an understanding of what's going on. Because at any given time, I can see, well, that monument requires 2 markets to acquire it, and I'm the only one who has them. There are markets out there, no one can catch up to me. So you can see exactly the requirements and whether or not somebody may take something from you. So the multiplayer game is more calculating, but still very rewarding and satisfying. And the solo game is considerably different in flavor and tension to me, because it has a push or luck element, which surprised me very pleasantly. So I feel like I got 2 games here, because again, the solo and the multiplayer are very different experiences, but they're both excellent. This game looks great, plays great, and I don't know if you can tell, I'm in love with it.